Hello everybody, welcome to the channel of MeteoMark Weather. Always great to have you here with me. We're going to be looking at the tropics. Unfortunately, things are looking more pessimistic as we go towards the New Year's, Christmas through New Year's and beyond. We're going to be looking at a lot of tropical moisture that's going to be heading from the Lesser Antilles all the way through Central America and all the way through much of the Caribbean. We'll get into all the details, which areas could have the greatest threat of heavy rain and flooding continuing. And to set us up for some potential winter storm action, we could be looking at the coldest Arctic blast of this winter season across eastern North America as we head on into the weekend into early next week. And we're also going to be watching a couple systems up here in the Northeast as we get on into Friday and into Saturday. A burst of heavier snow through parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley into the Northeast. It looks like a near-miss coastal, but what is setting us up here for Christmas Eve into Christmas Day? Could we see some flakes that could get in on the act of a white Christmas? Any major winter storms on the horizon? Let's get into it. All right, so let's start off here with the GFS. I'll move to the European, and then we'll get into some winter weather coverage. Look at this. It starts off nice here for the most part in the Caribbean. Jamaica, I know you've had some rain as of late through the Lesser Antilles, but this is looking better. Unfortunately, looking over towards Belize and Honduras, this just does not look better. We do have a blob of moisture sitting out just northeast of the Bahamas and Dominican Republic and Haiti. We'll watch that slowly pivot away with this frontal boundary. We have what could have been something trying to kick up here in the central Atlantic, but nothing really to write home about here. Unfortunately, these northeasterly and east-northeasterly trade winds continue across the Caribbean, and that is what's going to be bringing in the moisture for us. Look at that. Northern Honduras as we head through the 22nd. So we're getting on into the weekend, into early next week, heading on into Christmas Eve here. You can see this is exactly what I didn't really want to tell you about here. You can even see some moisture off the coast of Florida here, so watch out. It is going to get a little drier in Florida. I know many of you have said it's been terrible, especially South Florida. We do have this potential tropical wave kicking up here across the southern part of Central America towards Costa Rica and Panama. Look what starts to happen here Christmas Eve. Yeah, we have high pressure up here off the southeast coast. That's going to allow this system to push some moisture up towards Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and eventually that's going to pivot more towards the west here. We do have a frontal boundary and some tropical moisture meeting up here in the Gulf of Mexico. So yeah, this is kind of crazy, this much moisture we have around. This does not look like December across the Caribbean and the Gulf, but here we go. We head on into the 28th, the 29th, and on into the 30th and the 31st. We still are dealing with rain here in Honduras, Belize, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands. Look at the moisture here in the Eastern Caribbean as well. We have some sort of tropical wave, tropical entity here. And then look at this. Towards January 2nd, we get a spin up here towards Honduras. We just can't catch a break as these easterly trade winds and east-northeasterly trade winds continue to bring in the moisture. All right, so flipping over to the European model here. Actually, on the Euro, you can actually see this a little clearer. There's an area of low pressure just off the coast of Colombia, South America here. There's another one towards Costa Rica on the Pacific side. So that's pretty interesting. You can see there's our whatever that system is out there. It's another strange, unusual system for this time of year. But as we head through Friday into Saturday here, yeah, unfortunately, more rain, Costa Rica, Panama, all the way up to Honduras, northern Honduras, southern Belize. We're just socked in. Jamaica starts to get kicked up showers here all the way through Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico, even over towards Trinidad, Tobago here. Look at here towards Christmas Eve. You have a massive, this is so weird, we have a massive blocking high this far south, but it just can't make its way here into the Caribbean. We have a frontal boundary here to the north, and it always gets hung up right around Belize and Honduras here and just around Jamaica. Now look what starts to happen the 24th into the 25th. This is a pretty sizable blob of moisture on the European model, and that is of concern because that's not normal for this time of year. We'll continue to watch it here as we head through Christmas and New Year's. All right, so let's get into mid-layer dryer analysis and moist air on the, thanks to Tropical Tidbits. Yeah, this is going to be This is what I've been talking about here. Look at the GFS as we get on into the weekend into next week. You can really see it clearly. You couldn't see it as clearly on the precipitation part of the model, but look at this. Moist air just blasting northward here. Florida actually getting some dry air. That's some good news for you. But look at this. As we head in time, the entire Caribbean just lines up with extreme moisture. Look at this. All the way up into the Gulf eventually as this high pressure does start to retreat. So right around this high pressure, and we get a frontal boundary moving from the United States, we're going to begin to tap into a lot of this tropical moisture, unfortunately. That's actually heading into the southeast U.S. And then look at here, the western Caribbean just continues to get pummeled. This is a frontal boundary by the time the 30th comes around. We'll have to see how far to the south and the east this makes it. This could maybe be the thing to... It doesn't look like it's going to make it that far south, though. See how it stalls and then it rides back north? It does make it into parts of the eastern Caribbean, however, but Western Caribbean, that's where we really need things to dry out. And heading over to the European run, you can see a very similar thing start to happen here as we get into Monday the 23rd, the 24th. You can see this area of low pressure south of Jamaica just hanging out. And as we go out in time, that moisture pushes to the north and east. And eventually by the 30th into the 31st, we do get that front moving through just like it was on the GFS. Unfortunately, it looks like we still have moisture across the southern Caribbean, but the Euro is a little more optimistic by January 3rd. Look at all this dry air. Still, there could be some moisture trapped under the mid layers towards the ground surface. Liquid equivalent precipitation here on our European run. Here we go. Yeah, it seems like we just can't get rid of this tropical moisture here from Costa Rica up the east coast of Nicaragua. Look at the northern coast of Honduras, especially southern and eastern Belize here, the coastal areas just inland, especially southern Belize. Over towards Jamaica here, where you're getting upwards of 200 millimeters, especially in Portland and Parish and surrounding parishes. A lot of that falling next week through the new year, as you can see. Northern coast of Honduras, 400 millimeters. I mean, we're getting up into the 5 to 10 inch range again here. Northern coastline of Hispaniola towards Dominican Republic, you're getting up towards 100, 125, 140 millimeters here. You get the idea. This is a lot of tropical moisture, and this is not normal for December. I wanted to hop on over to the GFS here. As we go through, here we go, Christmas towards the new year, it's just not getting any better here. Look at Belize, parts of eastern Central America. The only thing I can see here on the GFS, yeah, northeastern Jamaica, once again, in excess of 175, 200 millimeters here. North coast of Honduras, it looks better on the GFS, but look how close this bullseye is offshore. So I'm still not very optimistic for clearing here in northern Honduras or Belize for that matter. I know a lot of you have been posting comments down below from Belize and Honduras that it just keeps getting worse, or it's just not getting any better. It's just continuing to rain. This is not good. So as we continue through Costa Rica, yeah, GFS keeping a lot of this offshore, but you get the idea. We're socked in. I know some of you said here in South Florida, you are socked in, but look at that. That's at least you're going to get some drying here in South Florida. All right, so heading on into the Eastern Caribbean here, you can see what's going on with the rainfall. We're pretty much socked in through it through the entire forecast period here. Look at Trinidad, Tobago socked in with 100 to 150 millimeters here. Get you up towards 3 to 7 inches. And look at all the way through the Caribbean islands here. The common theme is wetter through the new year here as we continue to have this tropical moisture pummel northwestward. And here we go with the European run. Pretty similar. As we get throughout later this week into Christmas week, it just moistens up just tremendously. This just does not look like December across the Caribbean. All right, so for our NAM 3 kilometer here, you can see what's going on. We have our storm system up across the Midwest. This is a pretty potent Alberta Clipper here, but the thing is, it's weakening. So as it heads towards the Ohio Valley, here it is 2 a.m. on Friday. You can see the snow developing across the Ohio Valley, and that pinwheels, you can see that. Let me just look at that. You can see that cyclonic motion there, even getting into some rain on the southern end of it. But look at that. Mostly snow. that's going to pretty much move in pretty rapidly throughout northern New York, north central Pennsylvania through noon and 2 p.m. on Friday. And there it is, just consolidating overnight as we get on into Friday night into early Saturday morning. It looks like it's moving a little faster now. You might get a burst of some heavier snow here as far south as New York, New Jersey, the Hudson River Valley, and then look at the lake enhancement behind it here. So that's what we're looking at. Maybe some flakes as far east as Massachusetts and Connecticut. We'll get into those snowfall amounts momentarily, but look at this as we head on into Saturday night. The lake effect bands are lining up off Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Throughout the rest of the country, there actually is not too much to talk about here. We may have some rain along the outer bands in North Carolina. That's some good news. I know you need the rain up towards Delmarva and South Jersey here as well. We'll continue to watch it here. So far, NAM 3 kilometer here. This just takes us through our system early Saturday. Look at this. This is pretty interesting to see that most of it's going to fall from Cleveland, Erie, Buffalo, up through the Finger Lakes, northwestern Pennsylvania. This area about looking like 2.5, 3 inches on average, maybe locally higher, just northeast of Erie there. Look at over towards Binghamton here. There's kind of a shadow. So, yeah, the synoptic models were going more ballistic over this direction, and the mesoscale is kind of backed off a bit to an inch or less. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, and we'll get some snowfall totals up here into parts of northern New York and northern New England as well. This just takes you through early. Actually, this takes you through Sunday morning. So this takes you through pretty much the entire storm event. All right, so taking a look where our future radar left off, there is that system blasting across the east. The energy from what's left of that Alberta clipper transferring to a coastal low. But unfortunately for you snow lovers, it's too progressive. The flow is out to sea. It does clip Nova Scotia. I'll get into that with the Canadian weather outlook in just a few minutes. That blasts up towards the Canadian Maritimes. High pressure builds in pretty quickly here for the 22nd on into the 23rd. But watch this. This is what could get things cranking for us to bring a rare white Christmas to parts of the Ohio Valley, eastern Great Lakes, and the Northeast. This area of low pressure, it's like a little weak clipper, but it does have a burst of moisture as it heads on into 1 a.m. on Christmas Eve. Look at this burst of snow. Unfortunately, it looks like the warm air gets into Cleveland, Buffalo area, Pittsburgh. So that switches the snow that briefly falls. Let me just back that up. There it is. 7 p.m. on the 23rd, 10 p.m. It's moving much quicker now on the latest GFS. So that's going to cut way down on snowfall accumulation. So unfortunately for a white Christmas, we may have some areas that the snow does hang around on the ground, but there is a warming trend. And here it is on the GFS, the 25th into the 26th. You can see that rain-snow line heading all the way up into Ontario and Quebec here. Maybe some mixed precipitation in the higher elevations of the Catskills, Poconos, western Mohawk Valley. But look at this. As we head through the 28th, 29th, you can see across the eastern U.S., look at this. Lots of tropical moisture getting pummeled northward here with the warmer air. Essentially what's going on is that Inferno Firecracker Ridge is kicking back in here. Now look what starts to happen. This is something we'll have to keep an eye on. Models have been hinting towards a strong low developing around central North Carolina here. This is a lot of heavier precipitation. It'll bring some beneficial rains to the Outer Banks, Virginia, all through Delmarva. Look what starts to happen on the backside of the system. Big burst of heavy snow as the cold air filters behind the system. It remains to be seen just how much of this will fall as snow. It is pretty far out, but we could have an actual sizable potential heavy snow event, wind-driven snow event on the backside of this low-pressure system as we head on through January 1st here. So that's a development we'll have to keep an eye on, rain changing to heavy wet snow and wind. If we look at our snowfall here on the GFS first, there's our shot of snow Friday night and Saturday from the Midwest into parts of the Northeast. Yeah, that lake enhancement on the backside, that'll get you above 6 inches, but mainly a 1 to 3 inch snow event. Then look at this. This is Christmas Eve. We're piling on top of that in interior New York, Pennsylvania, and northern New England there, even up through parts of the Midwest here. So we'll have to watch out for that. And going out long term, it looks like the systems are going to pull up more this direction. So places like Chicago, over towards Wisconsin and northwestward here, even through parts of Missouri and Indiana and Illinois, we'll have to watch out for significant potential snowstorms. And here on the European run, there it is. General 1 to 3 inches with those lake enhancement areas getting upwards of 6 to 12 there in the purples. And then look at there. There is Christmas Eve snow piling on top, northern Pennsylvania, upstate New York there. And then as we go through the New Year holiday, yeah, the European has even lost that major snowstorm across the East Coast. So I think the systems will be cutting more this direction as we go towards the new year. All right, so on our European model, our first burst of snow will occur Friday night into early Saturday. That's, about 2 inches on average here, some locally higher with the lake enhancement, 2 to 4. Cleveland up to Buffalo, Binghamton, even down to Allentown, Pennsylvania, about 2 inches on average. Look at this, though. This is piling on top of that system. It doesn't look that impressive. I mean, it does because it's adding on top of these totals from Friday into Saturday and then the lake effect into Sunday. But, it's probably going to be another 2 inches or so Christmas Eve. That might make it kind of nice, though, for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We'll have to watch this. It's not a 100% set in stone, but it's looking more prominent that we could see, some snowfall. And then I go through the New Year's holiday here. It's not until about the 3rd you start to see evidence that we could get snow. So it goes pretty quiet through the New Year's holiday here. All right, you want to take a look at the GFS here. If this will load, there we go. So the first storm, this is what we're looking at. Yeah, GFS is kind of showing some lake enhancement up by the Finger Lakes here, but you get the idea. 2 inches on average, even less here in northern Ohio. So northern Ohio, it's probably going to be a 1 to 2 inch event. Then we get through, here it is, into Christmas Eve, into early Christmas Day. We could have totals in the 2 to 4 inch range according to the GFS here. So we'll watch this area for a potential white Christmas. Maybe this will hang around. Any of you that get snow Friday through Christmas Eve, maybe this will hang around on into Christmas Day. And as we go through the GFS, it's not until about, there it is, the 3rd. GFS is more westerly with this system, obviously, but adding to some totals here, it looks pretty interesting. And liquid equivalent precipitation amounts here, yeah, they're going to be pretty light. The West Coast is where it's all going to be until, say, next week. Later next week, we get a big system from the southern plains. Let's get that out of the way, all the way up through the Ohio Valley. So no large-scale systems. This system here, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in the Northeast, it might be something. It's maybe liquid equivalent, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, but the big story is going to be towards the new year and beyond when the warm, blasting air, let's get that out of the way again, pushes towards the U.S. East Coast. Look at out west here. Yeah, 6 to 10 inches of liquid along the inland here. And before we continue with more weather coverage, don't forget if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I'd love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates. And if you haven't caught my winter 2024-2025 outlook, it's a link in the description down below and at the end of this video. So be sure to check that out. Let's continue. All right, so 500 millibar height anomalies here. I like to look at this for troughs and ridges. This one this weekend is a little bit negatively tilted, so we could get, some bursts of heavier snow in some areas up towards 2-3 inches. It is pretty fast, though. By Sunday and Monday, it's moving out. Look at the Firecracker Ridge moving in just behind it here, especially across eastern Canada, where we're going to shut the snowfall down momentarily. Look at that. Through Christmas and New Year's, that's when the Inferno Ridge really gets raging here. So obviously it will be a warm front pushing through Christmas Eve that will bring those snow chances. So hopefully we can get some snow on the ground for some areas. We'll have to wait and see here. But look at this. As we get through the new year, things may be finally changing after the new year here. Look at this big negatively tilted trough across eastern North America. And if we take a look at the GFS, very similar situation this weekend. Let's skip ahead to there is Christmas Eve day. That warm front pushing through. Firecracker Ridge building. We do get a little storm that may try to kick up Christmas Day. That's more for Southeast Canada, but look at this. The GFS on this run is going with a major East Coast snowstorm, but it doesn't quite get captured enough because look how it gets blocked to the north here. That's some major high pressure up here towards northeastern Canada. We're going to have to take a look at the NAO index. I'm very anxious to see this. Look at the GFS, though, as we head into the first part of January here. It's kind of flip-flopped versus the euro. We're showing a massive firecracker ridge trying to push up towards Greenland here. All right, here's our NAO index. Yeah, not too surprising. Actually, it is surprising in some areas because it's been a little bit cold, but yeah, we're still positive. This is the one thing we're going to have to watch, though. As we go into the new year, it's trending more neutral. And this may get to a point where we go negative. I think as we get throughout January, we go to a negative NAO index as that massive positive Fire Inferno Cracker Ridge pulls right up towards Greenland. That's what you want to see for some big major East Coast snowstorms. I think things will be changing as we get into January. And let's head on up to Canada here. Yeah, this is the system I want to talk about because, yeah, the West Coast will be getting hit. But as we head on into the weekend, here's our East Coast system. It's combining forces with what's left of that Alberta Clipper, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, all the way up here to eastern Quebec. This is where things are going to blossom. Here is the 21st at 1 a.m. Heavy snow pelting all the way northward, this blasting up towards 970 millibars. So you're getting hit pretty good here. Southern New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island. Looks like Newfoundland changes over to mostly all rain for a brief time, but there it is, blasting up into the Canadian Maritimes. What's that leave us with? High pressure. And we start to turn our attention to the Canadian West Coast as we head on into next week. We're going to get system after system just blasting into the West Coast here. We do get another system here across Nova Scotia and New Brunswick that tries to spin up, so more snow accumulations possible. But watch out. A warming trend is likely across eastern Canada. Rain all the way up to southern Hudson Bay. That is insane. But here we go. Snow breaking out across Manitoba, Saskatchewan, that hitting northward. And the West Coast getting a breather here. East Coast getting a much big warming trend here as we head on in through New Year's Eve and into New Year's. Western Ontario could be the target here of some very heavy snow. Look at the West Coast of Canada drying out, high pressure really building in. And as we head through January 4th, look at this. It's looking pretty quiet with just some snow showers here in eastern Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. And here we go. Canadian liquid equivalent precipitation. It's both coastlines because there's not much in the midsection. Here in southeast Canada, you could get upwards of 30 to 50 millimeters here. Nothing more than about a half an inch. But look at here, southeast Canada, we're getting up towards 60 to 100 millimeters. That'll get you up towards 2.5, 3.5 inches. West coast of Canada, look at that. That's where the big 150, 300 millimeters along and right along just inland into the mountains as well. All right, so for our snowfall amounts here in centimeters, wow, yeah, it is both coasts. Maybe a little bit there in southern Ontario, about 3 to 9 centimeters. But you know what? It is basically Nova Scotia, parts of New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Canadian Maritimes. Look at over here towards British Columbia. You're in excess of 80 to 150 centimeters. That's snow in the feet. That's like 3 to 5 feet. Over here into parts of southeast Canada, you're looking more in the 13 to 25 centimeters. Locally, higher amounts are possible. All right, so we're still in watching Invest 96W out here, right around the Philippines. So, yeah, it's got a lot of moisture with it. It's not going to develop, but we'll keep an eye on this system over here as well, just towards the northern coast of Indonesia. That might pinwheel between the Philippines and Vietnam as we head on into next week, the 22nd into the 23rd. it's definitely going to bounce between these two countries. But look at the northern Philippines with this frontal boundary just hanging out. It's going to be the focal point for some very, very heavy rains. And then as we head through the 26th, 27th, through Christmas and New Year's, this is what I'm really concerned about here. We're just going to start lining up these tropical waves. And some of them, I think, will actually develop into something. They're pretty strong. And this one in particular, as we head through New Year's Eve, and right around the 1st, the New Year here, just east and southeast of the Philippines, look at this thing blow up. If I just zoom out a bit, you can see this is a typhoon. Not to say this is going to happen because this is pretty far out, but this is troubling. And the fact that we have so many tropical waves lining up behind it is troubling as well. And for those rainfall amounts here across the Western Pacific, yeah, it's the Philippines and Vietnam that are going to be in the major problem zone here. You can see, yeah, totals could be approaching some areas upwards of 200 to 400 millimeters. That's getting you up towards a solid 5 to 10 with 10 to 15 inches possible. All this up here off the coast of South Korea and into northern Japan, this is all in the form of synoptic systems. It's your cold season up here. So that's going to be a lot of mountain snow and valley rain up here in Japan. And before we continue with more weather, check out these awesome, amazing maps that you won't find anywhere else.
I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning digital professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
And if we take a look at our temperatures throughout the rest of this week, this is going to be the big story. This is going to be a massive cold air blast that's going to be coming down through much of the eastern part of the country. So starting Friday, look at this, 30s all the way down to northern Missouri, even here into the northeast, northern New England. Look at Saturday. It's like a deep freeze. 20s. Yeah, you're going to be 40s all the way down here to the southern states here. That's pretty cold. And then we get into Sunday. Look at this. Yeah, this is a brutal day. Some areas might struggle to reach 10 or 15 degrees. So just stay inside. Monday, we start to erode that a little bit. We get a southerly flow here, but we're still in the 30s and even some 20s and teens here into northern New England. And then Tuesday, yeah, we're still holding on. Will we see that potential white Christmas here into the interior northeast and New England? We'll have to see here. It's going to be close, but I don't know. Look at that. The warmer air Christmas Day seems to be winning out. 30s and pushing 40 in many areas. The extended forecast from our hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. As we continue through Friday into Friday night, we will have snow that will develop, and yes, it will come down. I'm thinking about an inch or two, likely, and then that'll slowly tamper off as we get through the early morning hours of Saturday. Those wind gusts are really going to start kicking up, though. Saturday night, it's going down low. Sunday, we might not even make it to 15 or 18 degrees. Sunday night, we could be down to minus 10 in the normally colder valleys. And then by Monday and Tuesday, we start to bounce it back up, but we could have some Christmas Eve snow. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.